Hello and welcome back to the show. This is a kind of a special show because it was exactly 21 years ago today, on April 12th, 1995, that we taped our first discussion show. We had some different names over the years, but basically it was myself as the host and producer of the show, and then I'd have 4 panelists on the show. And we've been doing basically the same thing for 21 years now. And this happens to be our 400th show. And you'll see one of our panelists, Janet Askenburg, brought in a nice cake for us to celebrate. And I'm so pleased with the great panel of good friends that I have on the show tonight, beginning with the director of our very first show and the former Chelmsford Telemedia director, Matt Scott. Thanks for being here, Matt.
I'm honored to be here, Tom.
I'm so honored that you could come on the show, Matt, and because you've been the director of Chelmsford Telemedia, so you didn't want to be on my show too much, but this is only your 5th time on the show, solely because you've been so busy with being the Chelmsford Telemedia director.
Sure.
Now Pete Padula took over, is doing a great job, right, Matt?
Yeah, he's a fine job, yeah.
He's the director of our show, as you know. He's directing this show tonight, and so you're going to give me good angles, right, Pete? Did I say everything right? So Matt Scott is I said, the former director of Chelmsford Telemedia. He lives right near me in Precinct 9 in Chelmsford. So you retired, what, about a year ago, Matt, or something?
Yeah, just about a year ago.
And how's it going?
It's fine. I was out on a road trip for a couple months, and then I was down on a small island in the Caribbean for a couple months. And then next week I'm taking off for another trip through Europe and Turkey and Greece and stuff for a couple months.
That's fantastic.
Then I'll be back here.
You're going with your wife?
Yeah, I'll be going with Sue. Yes.
That's great. So you and Sue travel together to all these places?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful.
Sometimes we'll meet up with some friends and stuff.
Really? So what's your next trip going to be, did you say? Did you say Greece?
Yeah, we will be basically Europe and Turkey and heading down to Greece, and I'm going to try to do a little bit of filming and stuff. I'm working on some road movies and stuff.
That'd be
go
great,
around, something maybe that I could air here sometime in the future.
How about Italy? You must have gone.
Yeah,
to
I will
Italy,
be
right?
in Italy actually. We have some.
Good.
We'll be on the West Coast for a little bit, in Rome and in Florence, and then we'll be taking the ferry actually over to Greece, and then coming up through the Balkans. And,
well, you're so lucky to be able to do all this traveling.
Well, yeah, I mean,
you deserve it.
I do. Yeah, I mean, I've always loved to travel, and it's while I'm still kind of in good shape, I'm trying to get it in, before it's too late.
I should take that advice as well before it's too late. I got to do more traveling. I know you'll love it in Europe, and everything's so beautiful. I hope everything is great, and you have a wonderful time. But thanks again for being here, Matt. We'll talk all about all these exciting topics with you and see what your thoughts are.
Sure thing.
Oh, by the way, last July 4th, were you at the 4th of July parade, were you the Grand Marshal? Or was that the year before?
See, this is where a time thing comes in.
I think it was last year.
I think it was last year.
Yeah. Did you see it?
Yeah,
Waving there.
Yeah.
It was like the king of Chelmsford.
King for a day.
Yeah. And you know who it's going to be this year? Phil Jones. If anybody doesn't know, from Jones Farm.
Okay, great.
And that's going to be wonderful.
That's a lot of
He's
fun.
a great
You'll
guy.
have a good time.
So is his wife, too. I wish his wife was also the parade marshal.
Oh, okay.
Maybe the following year.
Maybe she can do it the following year,
Yeah, Deb Jones. So.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Matt.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
And we have my good friend Charles Wojtas here. Or shall I say Constable Wojtas?
You should say Constable Wojtas.
Constable Wojtas.
I get addressed now.
Newly elected 1 week ago today.
1 week ago, and I got sworn in on Thursday.
On Thursday,
so it's only been a few days.
Maybe 5 days or something.
Yeah, and today was my first day at work.
Really?
I spent most of the day delivering warrants.
Wow.
Warrants for the town and the water department.
And what do you mean by delivering? Do you drop them off, or do you have to have somebody sign something?
No, nobody signs anything. You just post them, and they go to schools, fire departments, senior center.
You post them on some sort of bulletin boards there?
Where the poster wall is.
Nice.
So everyone can read them.
So who notified you about that? Does the town clerk notify you?
Yeah, the town clerk notified me then, and then the clerk from the water department also gave me a call.
Nice.
Maureen,
Oh yeah, she's nice.
Maureen's really great. The water department's like the best place to work, I think. 'Cause
I
they
think
do
working for
water
you
and-
might be the best,
The
Charles.
what place?
Working for you. Yeah.
Who works
Well-
for me?
Well, that would be
I
a
did
good
have
job, I'd
employees
say.
once, and that was my favorite thing, having employees.
Charlie is a general contractor, some of you may know. He made a beautiful development on Arthur Avenue, right, Pam?
Well, that's not how I made money, though.
Oh, it isn't?
I made money in the trucking industry.
You know what that sounds like?
It does.
My
something.
compatriots, the mafia.
It wasn't mafia.
No, I'm in trucking.
It wasn't that kind.
Like the Kennedys in the
Yeah.
1920s, right? Joe Kennedy, there he is.
You're funny.
No, but Charles is great. He learned so much. He helped me a couple of days ago put in the new mailbox in the post.
That's
It
not
looks
rocket
beautiful,
science, though.
thanks to Charles.
Okay.
He does a great job. So, and Charles, this is your 27th time on the show.
Am I first?
No, you're third,
Oh,
Charles.
jeez.
So I have this list. It's called the TC Show Gold Panelists. If you have over 20 appearances on the show, then you join this list. And one more for Pam, which we'll talk about later. She'll get on the list. But anyway, there's 13 people on the list at the moment. And Charlie, you're up there on the top. I put you on the top because I know eventually you'll get the number one position.
Maybe I'll just stop today.
And so Charlie is a 27th time on the show. And I think you were here last year, too, when we did our post-election
I
analysis
did. I've
show.
done that for like 3 or 4 years.
Yes, because I've been checking my journal for the last 3 years on this date, what we were doing, and I see a lot of familiar names. So thanks. So we'll be doing an analysis of the election later on the show.
Positively.
Charlie, you could give us all your secrets, how you had the big
yeah,
win
how I
and everything.
win.
Because
I
that was a
will
very
tell
competitive,
everyone.
very competitive race, that's for sure. Most competitive in town. There were what were 4 candidates at the
Four
end,
for
right?
one, yes.
Why
for
do they
one
have so many
position.
candidates wanting to be constable, out of curiosity?
You know, that's a question I do not know for sure. I know my reason for running, but I don't know everyone's reason.
What was your reason for running?
My reason was just to do something that was new and different for the town.
Yeah.
And it had nothing to do with really anything else. The constables do get paid, but
On a
just
salary?
about gas money.
Oh, okay.
So
So it's like contractual per job or
Per-
something
per
like
job,
that? Oh,
correct.
okay. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks, Charles. We'll talk all about your election and the
sure.
debates and everything a little later in the show. And we have my good friend Janet Askenburg with us. How are you, Janet?
Good, how are you?
Good, good. And congratulations on your election to being the chairman of the Republican Town Committee now.
Thank you.
Mike McCall was a previous chair for maybe quite a while, I think.
For 2 years.
Oh, just 2 years? Who was it before him then? Do you know?
It was Kelly Curran.
Oh, and her daughter is the marathon runner, and she's just doing great.
And then before that, it was Maxine Vatsis, who we have the scholarship for.
Yes. Did she pass away?
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
So we have that memorial scholarship, and we're going to announce the winner of that at our next meeting on April 21st. We had 3 applicants, so we're pretty excited about that. And all 3 were wonderful, so it'll be a tough decision.
Oh,
But no, I called Mike McCall, and we spoke, and you know, he just has a lot going on with work and family, so he didn't think he was going to run for another 2 years. So I put my name in the hat, and I got elected. So I'm excited about it.
congratulations, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
And the vice chair is
Curtis Barton.
Curtis Barton. Yeah, he's a town meeting rep, I think.
He's a
Precinct
town meeting
9.
rep. He's also on the 101 Mill Road Committee, so he's very active in town.
Nice.
And then Dee Miller's our secretary. She's also a town meeting rep.
Yes.
And then Paul Regazio is our treasurer.
And he might be a town meeting rep as well,
Yes,
right?
he is. Yep.
And you have a meeting coming up soon, right? Wherein our town manager is going to be speaking
Yep.
about the warrant articles.
On the 21st, which is a week from this Thursday, we moved it over to the police station because we expect quite a few people to show up. So, yeah, the town manager, Paul Cohen, will do a presentation on the town meeting warrant articles, answer some questions. He did that. He's done that, I guess, the past 2, last fall and the prior spring, especially when it comes to the budget.
Yes.
So he does a wonderful job, and it gives everyone an opportunity to learn more and, you know, just hopefully be more involved and more aware of what's going on in town.
Nice, nice. And I publicize, as you may know, on the Chelmsford News page on
Mm-hmm.
Facebook. We have almost 4,000 members now on the page. It's growing like crazy.
It is.
Almost 4,000 in 9 months. Matt, I checked, and you are a member, Matt.
Oh, I
checked
am?
today.
Okay,
Yeah,
I didn't even
you're
know
a
that
member,
I
yeah.
was. Okay, that's...
Well, you're
maybe
traveling so
Facebook.
much, you don't get to see it.
Yeah, okay.
But some of us, like I'm on it almost all day because I'm the managing
Well, you
editor
have
of it.
to
And
be.
I get so many people asking to come in, but about half of them are allowed in, the other half aren't, because you know they're not real names or whatever. There's a lot of reasons, but if they're not a real name with a sincere desire to join the prestigious Chelmsford News Group, they don't get in.
Right.
So
does that mean you cannot see the page if you're not in? Or?
Well, no, they might be able to see the page, but they
you can't
can't
make
post
comment.
on it.
Yeah,
they can't
post.
comment or whatever.
Yeah.
And if I block them, though, they can't even see the page, I believe. Yeah, and there's over 600 people that are, because they weren't, using their real name, and they're just there to cause trouble. So there's over 600 people that I definitely.
How do you tell their real name?
Oh, you just do research. You could see, you could tell after a while, Charles.
Okay.
You could click on their Facebook page, right? And sometimes you could see, like, they might have a woman in a bikini or something, and with no, with one picture, 2 friends.
And you find that offensive, right?
No, but there's like 2 friends, and they might live in, overseas somewhere,
Oshkosh
whatever.
or
It's just very. You could tell that they're up to no good.
But you don't want to necessarily hold it against somebody if they only have 2 friends, though, do you?
Yeah, what's wrong with
Maybe
that?
they're joining Chelmsford News to make friends.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, so Chelmsford News, please join if you haven't yet, by the way. So
As
Janet.
long as you have more than 2 friends.
Yeah, so
Right.
you have to have more than 2 friends
And no
on
bikinis.
Facebook.
Right.
Yeah, no, bikinis are okay.
Oh.
It's just, if that's your only picture, I mean. So, but after a while, you could get to know how these things work, because I've been doing it, Facebook groups for like 6-7 years now. Because I had Chelmsford Reps and Residents before that, and I'm transitioning to the Chelmsford News Group. But Janet was also our former selectman. It's been only 1 week as of today that you're not a selectman. You decided not to run again.
Right.
So how does that feel, Janet?
It feels good. Yeah, it feels a little strange because after the school committee and the Board of Selectmen, so for 6 years, every 2 weeks, I'm preparing for a meeting, and so it's actually kind of nice. It's a nice break, but being chair of the Republican Town Committee, which I've been a part of for many years, kind of helps me, keep my hand in things in the community. But it's not nearly the responsibility of being on a major board. So
but that kept you so busy, right? Because you also have a full-time job. You're a partner in a company, and I know you travel around to different states, Texas quite often, or it could be Chicago, whatever. I don't know how you did it. Plus, you have your family here, and it's amazing, Janet, all that you've done.
yeah, I'll sleep one day.
Yeah, I hope so, because it must have been so exhausting. But
I guess, but Pam knows what it's like to juggle everything, and I think at some point you just get used to it. That's just how you live. So, and if you enjoy it, it's not really work, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what happens. It just becomes part of your life, and it just works.
You just handle it.
And you just keep going.
just keep going, yes. Yeah. Well, thank you for your service on the Board of Selectmen and
thank
the
you.
Chelmsford School Committee. Hopefully, next year, you run for town meeting rep anyway, so you could vote and
Yeah, absolutely.
vote on the budget and everything would be great.
Yeah,
You're in what, precinct 8 is it, or 7?
I'm precinct 8.
8, okay, great. Well, thanks for being here, Janet.
Thank you for
and
inviting me.
Thank you again for the cake, which we'll see when we get a 5-shot.
Okay.
On what a beautiful cake that is. Oh, look at my shiny head. Oh, my God. I should have put some powder up there, right, Matt? I'll never forget Matt telling me, Tom, you really should put some powder on the head of yours.
It looks,
You remember that?
Yeah, it looks
No,
good
but
on
I
the
don't
camera.
mind. It looks
Yeah,
natural,
it's shiny.
right?
It's shiny.
It's
It
a
looks
natural
great
look.
right now.
And also with me, we have my good friend Pamela Armstrong. How are you, Pamela?
Good, Tom. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for being here. And most people don't know you prefer the name Pamela, right? You're using it rather than Pam, I think?
In business, I like to use Pamela.
Yeah. Yeah, great. And so, Pamela, this is your 19th time on the show, as I mentioned before.
So I
which is
need one more invite so I can
yeah,
make
one
the gold
more,
list.
Yeah. You'll make our gold list. And as everybody knows, Pamela has been a town meeting rep for many years here
You know,
at town.
I have to look it up, and I think I'm coming close to 20 years.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised, yeah.
I think I started like the couple years into town meeting reps.
Yes.
It's been a long time.
Yes, that's wonderful. And you also were on the planning board for many years, right,
Yeah,
Pam?
10 years, 9 years.
Yes.
I lose track. Like Janet, you're doing so many things. It just all blends one into the next. And
Because you were on other committees in town
Yeah,
as well,
lots of
right,
committees.
Pamela? A
Lots
bunch
of
of committees. So doing great work for the town, do a lot of volunteer work, and you also are a successful realtor, right, Pam?
I am a
With
successful realtor.
Coldwell Banker?
With Coldwell Banker, yeah. I just
Yeah.
received awards with Coldwell Banker and awards with the Northeast Association of Realtors. So,
Wow.
yeah, I had a very good year last year, and this year is a very strong real estate year. Yep. If you have a house to sell, you got to put it on the market now because you'll get multiple offers,
Oh, really?
over asking. It's no inventory, so it's a crazy market.
Yeah.
Wow.
Great time to sell.
I
Now,
would say-
she was also on the board for Chelmsford Telemedia, weren't you?
No,
You
I
weren't?
never did. I was
Oh.
asked to be
You
on
were
the
a great
board.
resource
Yep.
for us.
Yeah, I
I
helped
think
you
I
out.
asked you multiple times.
Yeah, you did. I
kept
helped
getting
you
the
get a lot of
turndowns.
equipment and
Yes, absolutely.
do a lot of things
Yeah,
to
there's- yeah.
help you out. And yeah, I had a TV show for a little while.
I think I remember it. Was it called
Spotlight on
Spotlight?
Chelmsford? I took it from you,
Yeah,
right?
right.
You started it. I took it from you.
Yeah, it was amazing. At one time, believe it or not, I had 5 shows going, which was crazy,
Oh
right?
my
Oh,
goodness.
yeah, that's
Spotlight on
yeah.
Chelmsford, the TC show that I'm doing now,
Yeah.
the Real Talk show
Yeah.
Matt used to be
Yeah.
on, a movie
Right.
review
Yeah,
show,
that was
the
fun.
Chelmsford Business Association
Yeah.
show, and Investing Insight about the stock market.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I was
Yeah.
devoting a lot of time to the studio,
That's
right? I should get a
incredible.
raise, don't you think?
Yeah, we double your double your salary.
But thanks for being here, Matt, Pamela. We're going to have a great time.
Yeah.
Matt,
We look
yeah,
like
yeah, Matt. But speaking of the show, before I talk to Matt, maybe we
Yeah.
could reminisce. Pete, could you maybe show for a few seconds our first, the photo of the first show that we did? And so this is it. The show was April 12th, 1995, and that's me, even though you probably can't recognize me in the center there. I was the host and producer of the show, as I still am. And on the right, there is a former selectman, Jack Emerson, who passed away a few years ago, unfortunately. Next to him is Barbara Ward, who was on the school committee at the time, and she's still very active here in Chelmsford. And then on the far left, there's Bill Logan, who was a selectman here in Chelmsford. And next to him is Mike McCall, who's still a town meeting representative in Chelmsford. And he fills in as, for John Curlin as town moderator. If John Curlin happens to have a conflict of interest on a particular topic, he'll fill in. And he's an attorney. He works in New Hampshire now, Mike McCall does.
Oh, okay.
And he's on the Republican Town Committee, as Janet mentioned. So that was exactly 21 years ago today, and as you could see, I had a little bit more hair back then. But other than that, everything's about, we taped the shows at Chelmsford High School back then, right, Matt?
So that was Chelmsford High School?
Yes, yeah, we started over there. And Matt was our first director, you remember, Matt, of the show for many years.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
You directed the show.
Right.
And at that time, I had to go before the cable board to propose the show. Remember, Matt? I don't know if they still do that or not, but I had to.
Not
come-
really. I
Yeah.
mean, it's kind of.
If you want a show, you can have one now,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, I guess at that
But-
point you had to really fill in the small print and with details on. Yeah.
Was that, but I got through the
Right.
review with flying colors, I
Yes,
think, and
yeah.
nobody objected.
Yeah.
And so, as you may recall, the first 2 shows were 30-minute shows. Do you remember that, Matt?
Yeah.
And the time flew by so fast
Absolutely.
that right after that, in the 3rd show, we started with the 1-hour format. But the same thing with 1 host and 4 guests generally on the show, and everything has been about the same.
Right.
Now I branched out, though, to not only politics, but we do animal companion shows,
I love
artist
those
shows.
shows,
Pete
yeah.
Padula's brother has been on
I
Paul
remember that
Padula.
show. He was great.
The artist shows
Yeah.
do great. The animal shows do great. We have movie review shows. Your son has been on it, too.
Yes, he loves coming
he
on.
loves it,
And those
yeah.
movie review shows are. I mean, I love watching those.
Yeah, me too. So I could tell on YouTube which ones get the most views.
Oh, really?
So the political shows don't often get the highest
Yeah.
number of views, but
Kind of depends if there's,
What's going on.
something
in town.
controversial or
Yeah,
something
yeah.
going on. But I love doing, so that's the only reason we changed the name of the show to the Tom Christiano Show, because it's not just politics anymore.
Sure.
So politically incorrect didn't fit anymore, that
Yeah.
kind of thing. So Matt, anything else you want to mention
Well,
about the show or
I
the
mean,
studio?
well, first thing is, I mean, all of us at, I'm, at Chelmsford Telemedia, I mean, we're so grateful for you because I know what a challenge it is to get 4 people, and you usually have a number of questions. You send out the subjects so people aren't blindsided when they come in. It's a lot of work that you put in for the show, and it's kind of amazing that you've had the energy and just the dedication to keep this going for 21 years now.
I know, it's
you
a
know?
long time, right?
And
Matt?
I know the staff is begging you to do 21 more. Because
Well, I'm
you're the
gonna try.
flagship. I mean, without
Thank you.
without
Oh,
the
that's so
TC
nice.
show.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks. Thank
This
you.
is just a black room.
Thank you.
You know.
But we have a number of great producers and directors now, and so
Sure.
it's expanding quite a bit. What I've noticed, I think, since I started in 1995, that the options on cable TV are much more extensive, because not only do you have the TV programs, but now you have great services like Netflix and
Absolutely.
Hulu.
Yeah.
And I subscribe to Netflix. It's $9 a month. And the problem is finding the time for an hour to watch House of Cards, for example.
Absolutely.
Or
yeah.
the Kimmy Schmidt show
Yeah.
or whatever. These great shows there.
Yeah.
And these old movies, like I'm watching Scarface with Al Pacino again for like the 20th time.
Oh, really?
But when I
Yeah.
have time, I've been watching like 5 or 10 minutes at a time. There's so much to watch now, is my point.
There is, and they
that
also,
it's
Hulu,
just
and then they
amazing.
have Amazon Prime, which is, I mean, this is
And
one of the
Amazon
reasons why
too,
Amazon
yeah.
Prime is going to take over the world.
Yeah.
For that $99 a year,
Yeah.
you get all these TV shows, movies, free package delivery,
Yes.
free music,
It's
discounted
amazing.
books and stuff. And
I'm
I
waiting for
love
the
Amazon.
cable TV stations to start bringing down their prices, the Comcast
Yes,
and the
they
Verizon.
should.
yeah,
Because it costs
Because
a
of the
fortune to
well,
watch
competition.
that's
TV.
that's the challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, part of the situation. I will say one thing with. I think we are in the golden age of a lot of great television shows. I
Yes,
mean,
I
just as
agree.
far as what you see on cable, the things like Mad Men and Breaking Bad. Everybody's waiting for Game of Thrones to come on.
Yes, I love Better Call Saul.
Better Call
Which is a
Saul.
Breaking Bad spin-off.
And
You
And I-
mentioned House of Cards.
House
House of
of
Cards, I
Cards.
love, and I love Billions, which
Oh,
ended the
that's
season last
wonderful.
night. Oh my God, Paul Giamatti, what an actor!
I never did
you-
see that. Was
oh,
that good?
You love it.
It's
You-
amazing.
It
Really?
was only
Yeah,
about
it's
10
great.
episodes, so you
Yeah.
can catch it
Yeah.
on reruns, and I would highly recommend it. Fantastic acting and writing
Yeah.
about the financial world,
So this
and-
is kind of like adult television, finally. I mean, if you kind of look at it 20 years ago, there were a lot of shows, but they were built for the entire family, which is kind of fine and stuff like that. But the edgier stuff that you want to watch when the kids go to bed, like
Yeah.
this Billions and Mad Men and stuff. I mean,
Yes,
they're somewhat complex and interesting characters, and the plots are. I mean, that's where a lot of the great writers are working
Yes,
right
oh,
now,
definitely.
and directors and cinematographers.
It's one reason I gave up the Real Talk show, the movie review show, after 10 years, is because the movies now that you see locally, for example in Lowell, it's a lot of these special effects and crazy things. I hate these superhero films. I just can't stand them, because to me they don't seem to make any sense. And
Sure.
I don't know, I'm getting so old, I guess. I don't know.
It's a
I
little
just
too much fantasy.
fantasy that
Yeah.
I just don't like them. So that's one reason I gave up the show. It wasn't worth it. Now, Revenant, that was a good movie. There was a number
Yeah.
of good movies that come out, but there aren't enough for me to have to go see.
Sure.
I wouldn't want to go see Batman versus Superman, for example. It just, to me, would be a waste of 2 hours of my life.
But
And
I'm just wondering about the possibility of you doing some things that talk about, some of this great television
Well, we do.
programming that I think is replacing a lot of the film for adults and stuff,
We do, Matt,
Oh,
on this show, on
okay.
the Tom Christiano Show.
Oh,
For
okay.
example, we had your son on,
Yeah.
Jack Neary, and a whole bunch of people. John Curlin's son, Scott, is
Yes.
a movie
Yeah,
critic.
he's
so,
great.
so we do them here on the TC show about
Right.
once or twice a year.
Yeah.
And so I have a good time with those shows.
Sure.
Yeah. but-
Can I mention one
Yeah,
other thing
please,
that I
yeah.
think it's another, we're 20 years ahead, something that did not exist a while back, but I think it's also a golden age for podcasts right now.
Yes.
And
yeah.
there are just amazing shows out there. I was just listening to something which was an offshoot of some people that work for NPR called Embedded, where a reporter spends at least a month in the story right there. And they did a story about the opium addiction problem in this small town in Indiana. And it was just an incredible show. Very simple.
Yes.
Just, a podcast. I mean, no pictures or anything like that, but just really
That's
absorbing.
amazing.
And there's so many WTF. I just think it's a golden age for a lot of podcasts right now, too.
I agree. Thank you, Matt. Well, I wonder if we could start with the election with the constable race. And to talk about, Charlie topped the ticket. There were 4 candidates on the ballot running. Charlie got 971 votes. Andrew Weiner came in second at 754 votes. Bill Harvey came in third with 560 votes, and Richard McClure came in fourth at 447 votes.
Okay.
So Charles, could you tell us about what was it like running for constable? What did you think about the debates?
It's sort of like running for anything else. When I ran for planning board, I did the same format. I just tried to tell the truth and try to be polite.
Yeah.
And when I ran for planning board, I really had no idea what planning board was about.
Yeah.
I didn't even know what zoning meant. But after 9 years, you kind of figure it all out, and it works really well. And I did write one little article, one little bylaw for the planning board, which I really, really enjoyed writing. It was the limited access apartment article,
Nice.
so you can let your parents live with you.
Yeah.
So what it
So-
was like, and I
Yeah.
figured Richard McClure got the least votes because I believe he went to the least debates.
It could be. He didn't go to any debates, did he?
I don't think he
I
did.
think
Yeah.
that's about his least.
He
Yeah,
said he-
that's as least as you could get.
And what did he say? He said he didn't want to go because there would be a conflict and there'd be no debating, which he is right, because what could you debate about?
Yeah.
It's the
Well,
constable.
he has-
it's not
that's
the
why-
Yeah, it's a little bit more of like a Q&A
Yeah, I-
versus an actual debate.
Yeah.
Right,
That's why I call it a
no
forum
debate,
on
Q&A.
the news
Yeah.
page and everything, because they're really forums rather than debates. But it was kind of interesting. One of the League of Women Voters debate with you and Bill Harvey
Oh
were
no,
there.
I didn't go to the League of Women
Okay,
Voters.
it
I had
was
a little.
The Democratic Town Committee.
The Democratic Town.
Because I was there that night.
Pretty
And,
crazy.
that was interesting. And
It wasn't really interesting.
yeah,
It was crazy.
but Charles.
What happened? See, I didn't
Oh, okay.
Well,
watch it.
What happened? I really shouldn't say.
Do you
Oh,
want me to
okay.
mention?
Yeah,
it?
you
Okay,
can
Okay,
say
yeah, let's
it
hear it.
better than I.
We got to know now.
No, you have to know.
So, towards the middle or the end of the
With the very
forum,
end.
the moderator says, "Okay, it's time to ask each other questions." So Charlie asks Bill Harvey a question, which I thought was very nice, very polite. I mean, just kind of a lighthearted way. He says, "Bill, I was just wondering, what did you spend on your signs, your campaign signs?" Or words to that effect. And Mr. Harvey did not take it very well, and he didn't even answer the question. And he said some things about Charlie and got very mean-spirited. I don't know if any of you saw it.
Yeah, I
No,
did
Pam
see
did.
it, yeah.
Pam. So that
You
surprised
could
me because I never
clearly-
saw that in any of our forums locally. We don't usually have one candidate kind of getting his hackles up about a simple question like that.
You could clearly tell that Mr. Harvey did not like Mr. Wojtas
Yeah.
at that point. There
So
was some bad blood there.
yeah.
You know, if you didn't know anything about anything, you could tell
Yeah.
that something's not right here.
Yeah, and then he said some things about Charlie during the forum that weren't true or whatever, and so, just kind of negative things about it. It was just, you very seldom see that in a local
Yeah.
debate with just your neighbors, basically. But I think Charlie's also on the Zoning Board of Appeals, which I neglected to mention in the introduction.
That's how he says I got him in trouble.
Yeah. Well, he said because you didn't vote for what he wanted at the ZBA,
Right.
right? He wanted to move, like, for example, the Dutton House over to,
We did give him permission to move the Dutton House,
but he wanted to.
but we did not give him permission to turn it into a two-family.
Two-family, yes, yeah. And so he took umbrage at that, right? He didn't like that very much. Apparently, he never forgot it. But,
Apparently.
but anyway, so sometimes I think in forums or / debates, disposition and attitude says more than the actual words that come out of one's mouth. Because I'm not so sure. In fact, I think that might have hurt him. Not that maybe the words he used, but his attitude towards a well-known Chelmsford resident that many people like. I think it really helped Charles in the sense that I think it hurt Bill Harvey's campaign to be so negative with his emotions during that forum. What do you think, Charles? Did you?
I think you're correct there. It didn't help with the emotions that Mr. Harvey did. But I do want to go back to another candidate,
Yeah.
Andrew Weiner.
Weiner, yeah.
No,
Weiner,
Weiner. Andrew Weiner. I have spoken with him, and as far as the 4 constables, well, I can say this now, but he was probably the best qualified, the most qualified, because he had worked
Yeah.
with the police department for 10 years, and he's an extremely nice gentleman, and he's called me up and thanked me about, congratulated me. and asked me if I would make him a constable deputy.
Nice. Are you going to do that, Charles?
Well, I have to check back with him and make sure when he's available,
Yeah.
and he has to go on to a little ballot for the selectmen at the end of June, so they can either say yes or no.
Right. Yeah,
I have
think-
not. Well, I do have something to do with it.
Yeah.
I can
But they-
recommend people, but the selectmen appoint
Approve
them.
them. Yes, yeah, nice. Nice. Well, anything else you want to mention about the constable race? You didn't spend any money on signs or anything, right,
I
Charles?
said I wouldn't spend money because I had spent money in the past, and I thought, well, I can just win or lose, and that's going to be the way it is. Go on my reputation.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the Buddhist candidate, you know?
Yeah.
I win
Well,
or
it-
lose, it's okay, either way.
It's okay. It would be fine either
And
way.
I thought
And you
that
have
was
you had Pat's signs out there.
Right,
it's
And
a large-
honestly, if you drive by, you see Wojtas.
Right. I
And you
did
don't
run on
necessarily
Pat's
see.
signs.
Yeah.
I did say that.
and your family so
It's
well
very
known.
economical, I would
Very
say.
economic. And I thought that was a good
Did
idea
you
too,
pay
Charles,
for
right?
the signs, or
Well,
did you help her?
Pat paid for the signs. I'm the financial officer in Pat's campaign, so I actually paid for the signs.
Oh,
Well, and
I
Pat
signed the
hasn't had
check.
to buy the signs in what,
Yeah.
10 years or something. So
Well,
She's
she's been
had-
buying plenty of signs.
she keeps
She
replenishing them.
bought some last year also.
Oh, okay.
Good. Well, congratulations
Well,
again,
thank you
Charles, on
very
your big
much.
victory. It was like the most competitive race the town has everybody mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Charles would do very well too because his family's been in town for about 100 years now or something. Is that right, Charles? It's
Probably a
close to-
little over.
A little over 100 years.
Yeah.
And you had farms, right, basically. Your family
Yeah,
had
that's,
farmland anyway in town.
That's years and years ago, 30, 40 years ago, chickens were like the thing to have. And every chicken farmer was very rich. Of course, he wasn't a millionaire because
Yeah.
there wasn't that much money back then. But yeah, but they were very, very rich.
Yes.
They had all the land, all the homes. It was really nice.
Nice.
The golden
And-
age of chicken
Old
farmers.
golden age
Yeah.
of chicken
And
farmers.
didn't your family have a couple of cows too, or some cows as well, Charles, or no?
Not really.
Not
They were
really?
just
Oh,
like
okay.
toys. They were
I
play.
see.
They were pets.
Yeah.
The cows were pets.
Nice gardens, though. You can have a garden again this year, Charles?
Oh, all the time. Keeps my
Good.
mother happy.
Yeah, Charles gives me some tomatoes and cucumbers sometimes, and they're delicious.
That's
Oh my
nice.
God. I'm too lazy to grow them anymore. I used to.
Tom, you should not be lazy.
Well,
Charlie,
you
how
know, I
old is
have
your
other
mother?
things. My Chelmsford news-
93.
his mother's 93.
93,
yeah.
93.
Till a
Happy
few
birthday,
years ago.
Stacia. If you're
Yeah.
watching the show,
Yeah.
we all wish you a happy birthday. You're coming up in July, I believe. Her birthday's in
July 6th,
July.
correct?
Yeah.
Tom?
that's-
Every year I send her a card
Yeah.
and stuff.
She
She's such a nice
appreciates it.
lady. So. And so thank you very much,
She could
Charles.
probably tell us a lot of stories about the history of
Yes.
Chelmsford. You should have her on your show.
Yeah.
That would be
Tell us
very
a lot
And
of stories
Bobby
about
Greenwood.
Yeah, Pat, baby.
Yeah.
Charlie and
Not
Pat.
Pat.
I'm not messing with that.
Yeah. Any other comments about the constable race before we move on to the selectman race?
I'm glad Charlie won.
Yeah, I'm
Thanks.
glad too.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Great.
And the constable race kind of made the election somewhat interesting.
Selectmen
Yeah.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was just, I don't know, there weren't
It was
any
something
really big
different.
issues, and
Yeah.
yeah, it just kind of
Something
made it a
different.
little different.
And the selectman race, which was Charlie's sister, Pat, happened to be top the ticket and won. She had been on the Board of Selectmen previously, Pat Wojtas. So she received 1,935 votes. Also, the second person also got a seat on the board. There were 2 seats, one of which was Janet's that she left. Glenn Diggs won with 1,923 votes. And then Sandy Martinez came in third and didn't get the seat at 1,180 votes. So any comments about this? What are your thoughts about the selectman race and how they ran the campaign, who won? Any comments at all?
Well, I'll start. I figured Pat would be the second or first runner-up, and the reason I figured that because Sandy Martinez had such a good name and a good following. I thought she would be top vote getter. So I have a bet with someone for lunch that Pat would not come in first, and I lost the bet.
But I didn't make you pay, right,
No,
Charles?
you're
I don't
very
care.
good.
I don't care. In fact, you helped me with the mailbox, so you don't have to buy me lunch
Oh,
anymore.
thank
Charles.
you.
In fact,
You
I gotta
heard
buy-
that.
I'm
Everyone
gonna-
heard
yeah.
Witnesses.
But I did think Pat would top the ticket. I thought
did.
um,
Very
she
good.
did very good at the debates. I thought she seemed to have
She always
excellent-
does really
yeah.
well.
She's very well prepared. She was out there with the sign holdings. I didn't get any mailings from anybody this year, so I think because maybe she knew I was going to maybe vote for her. I don't know, but
I got a mailing from Pat. We also got a mailing from Glenn Diggs. And I think that's it. Again, it was just a kind of a quiet,
It was quiet.
campaign
Yeah.
season.
I've never seen it in all the years I've been doing the show, 21 years. I've never seen a selectman race like this,
Wow.
which had so few mailings, so few discussions about it, right? And you could tell in the turnout there was a 12.5% voter turnout, and I had never seen it that low in all the years I've been here in Chelmsford, 39 years. We usually average between 17 and 20% for a local election without any override ballot question.
Yep.
17 to 20%, you know, because I save them every year all the time. So 12.5%, we could talk about that if anybody has any ideas why you think it was so low. There were a few competitive races, constable and library trustee and selectmen.
Yeah.
And that was it, other than some of the town meeting rep races. And even those, most weren't competitive.
I guess I'd have to say I was very surprised that more people didn't run for school committee after all the controversy that we had just gone through. I thought that would be the contested race, and I thought there'd be a lot of candidates, and there wasn't.
I know,
That
that's a
surprised me.
surprise.
I think I think the impression that a lot of people get is that, especially being on the school committee, takes a lot of time, a lot of work, and it's very punishing.
Yeah.
I just remember from covering those meetings, they go on, and you know, one of the tough
Not if
things.
they're run well.
Oh, really? Well, I will say that one of the tough things with the school committee is that, you know, like the superintendent, is that you have a number of different constituents. You know, you have the parents, you have the staff, and then you have the taxpayers, and everybody's at each other's throats all the time, and it's just in a difficult position to be. I mean, I think it's kind of somewhat of a thankless job, but you guys do a great job because Chelmsford is a great district. I mean, just as far as, you know, the education that the kids are getting and stuff, you know.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
But it's, I mean, you know, I'm concerned about that. I mean, obviously you'd like some more people, and you'd like some young people to start, you know, getting involved.
Yeah.
But I wonder if actually anybody even under 40 or 45 knows what the school committee does, or, you know, if anybody's on, you know.
Right.
I think there's quite a few people who don't even know that there is a school committee.
Right, yeah.
And I came across that
Yeah.
while I was on the school committee. But I mean, it's like I was a stockbroker for 5 years, so I know dealing with people, and you know, dealing with people and their money, you know, it's very personal. But when you start dealing with people and their kids, that's really tough.
Very emotional.
And yeah, very emotional, and yeah, it is a very tough job. I you know, I don't think the time commitment for school committee is any more than probably any other board, and again, that just comes down to your time management skills.
Yes.
But no, I look back and I would say, as far as being really fulfilling and enjoyable as far as the actual experience, I would say my time on the school committee was more so than the Board of Selectmen, because the school committee was more, the meetings were more lively. There was a lot of conversation. Now, some of that helped because, you know, I had Nick DeSilvio on one side and Evelyn Thorin on the other side, and, you know, we were always talking. It was much more lively discussions, and less so on the Board of
Is there any
Selectmen.
compensation for any of the boards?
No.
Or nothing?
No,
So.
just joy.
Yeah, just joy. And sometimes that you got to be enjoy getting yelled at by people or something.
And I know that was brought forward when I think I was still on the school committee. It was brought forward about maybe some stipends, but I know I was very much opposed to that. I mean, when we can't give our teachers and firefighters and policemen, you know, what I consider, you know, decent raises compared to surrounding towns, I didn't feel good giving us, you know, that kind of
No, I can
increase.
understand that, but I can also understand if sometime in the future you're going to have a school committee election, which you have no candidates running or something, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, when you're talking about $1,000 or $1,500 as the chair, is that
That's
really?
not going to drive you.
No.
Yeah, and I know some people said, well, we, you know, on the selectman side, people who are advocates for it said, but we go to a lot of events. You know, we have to go to different parties and, you know, people asking
Make
for
appearances,
contributions.
yeah.
But, you know, as a taxpayer, I find that a little offensive because I'm not going to pay you to go to a party, and I'm certainly not going to pay you to use my money to go to
No. I
you
mean,
know, to
it's-
some event or make some kind of contribution.
Yeah.
It's just wrong.
Right.
And I mean, it's Chelmsford. It's not as though, you know, they're driving all around town. I mean, theoretically, you can get around town on a bike if you have to. So, you know, if gas is that much, get out and walk or ride a bike.
Right.
So,
But I mean, I guess the concern is sometime when you do have an election where nobody's running, you know, because it's
We have to find a way to entice
you know,
people
because
to
if
want to do
you know,
these
I mean, you
things.
should have
A
more than, you
contested
know, not
race.
open seats, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, I think this was a really tough 2 years for the school committee.
Absolutely.
And, you know, the Lowell Sun can just be brutal on people. So when you find yourself in the paper in very negative ways and your kids see you that way and
Yeah.
friends and family, you know, other people are going to look and say, do I really want to put myself through
sure.
that?
Right, yeah.
Are there any other thoughts about the selectman race before we move on to the library trustee race? Please.
I'm glad that Pat won. I think she works really hard for the town, and she's, even when she wasn't a selectman, she puts in a lot of hours and a lot of other committees, so I'm glad to see that she's back as a selectman.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. Are you happy your sister's back, Charles?
Positively. She's much happier.
Did she say anything? Yeah, you know that picture of you and your sister in the
Then
Lowell
all is
Sun
good.
was great.
That was a
There was a
nice
the
picture.
day after
Oh,
the
yeah.
election. There was a nice picture
Yeah.
of you and Pat. Did you see
I
it,
did
Charles?
see that.
I posted it on the Chelmsford News page.
Yeah, it
of
was
course.
very nice.
It was. I've never seen Pat smile so much as in that
No.
picture.
I
Yeah,
Me neither.
I know.
I never
Me
saw
neither.
that.
Yeah.
It was-
Yeah.
You could tell which was
How
great.
happy
She should have
she
been
was.
very happy. It was a competitive race. and-
Was your mother thrilled?
She doesn't pay much attention.
No, she didn't say much.
Well, Tom, you know,
Yeah.
93, you're kind of thinking about other things.
But I tell you what, when I went to vote, it was like 7:30, and it was really starting to get dark, and I pulled up, and there's 2 sign holders there. And I forgot the gentleman's name, but your sister was standing there with a sign. And I said, you know what, if for nothing else, you should win because you're really hustling. You're out there and
she's
you
out
really
there all
want
the time.
this.
I held
Wow.
signs for Pat till 7:45
Wow.
on the other side of the
On the other side of
Wow.
McCarthy?
Right.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was actually Jillian and I.
Nice. And she won, which we'll talk about now. On the library trustees,
Oh,
there
yeah.
was 2 seats, and there were 3 people running.
Mm-hmm.
2 of whom were running for re-election. Lisa Daigle got re-elected. She was a current library trustee. She received 1,809 votes.
She's been on for a long time.
A long time,
Yeah,
yep, about
very
10, maybe
committed.
10 years, something
Yeah.
like that. And Jillian Kenny, who was a new non-incumbent, she won the other seat with 1,264 votes. And just below her was an incumbent who didn't get re-elected, who did a great job there, because I was on the board with him of library trustees, David Brashlau. He really was instrumental to that board, and they're going to find a little bit tough to get by in the same caliber without him. But maybe he'll volunteer a lot of his services too, because he's like an engineering expert and knows all that technical stuff, you know, about the HVAC in the library and this and that. A lot of the technical engineering type details he would be sharp. And right, Charlie was a library trustee
Yeah,
as well.
I was
Now,
on
do you
with
think that the
David.
debates or the forums should have had like groups like this so people that were voting had a little better idea
Well, they did.
of the
Some
candidates?
Of them, they did, Pamela.
Oh, I didn't see.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they did. Because I was at the police station. There were 2 of the debates, and I took only one of them, though, how featured the library
The
trustees.
library trustees. I must
Just
have
one
not
of
seen
those.
that
And
one.
it was a full, forum where they
Yep.
each discussed everything. And they all did well, actually. And David did very well as well. But he only lost by a few votes here. I hope he runs again sometime. But, geez, our time is running out. Any other thoughts
wow.
about the library
Well,
race?
I'm just wondering, turnout is so low.
Yeah.
What about, I used to live in Oregon, where you can vote online now.
Nice.
And it's really
Nice.
turned things around.
Yeah.
And you can vote at any time. And boy, when you only have 17% of the population, of the
12 and a half-
voters.
12 and a half.
Oh, 12 and a half. Yeah, I thought 17 was bad.
No, 17 was
Yeah, 12 and a
the
half.
average.
That's, yeah.
Previously, we'd get at least 17. Now we
Yeah.
get 12.5%
Yeah.
this year. So that's a good idea,
I'm just
Matt.
wondering, I mean, a lot of people are coming, have
I'll
to
talk
work.
to
a lot-
Honorina
yeah.
Maloney, our town clerk, who's
Yeah.
wonderful.
I mean, I think that would
about
have to
that.
be a state thing or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
but,
yeah, I would think
Now,
they'd
how
have
do you
to-
know that they're actually a registered voter that are actually voting
well, I think there
online?
was a process that
There's
you
a
can go
process?
through.
Okay.
And you know, I don't know how to technically do it and stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that they could
Interesting.
figure it out. And they do, you know, they're doing that in Oregon, I believe Washington too.
I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see that happen.
You probably get a lot more of the
Yeah, a
younger
lot-
folks.
Especially
Yeah.
places, you know, let's say like Maine or Vermont, where people aren't as close to the center of town, to give them the opportunity to vote. It might be easier for them.
Well, imagine this. Imagine you're at home. You don't know. I don't know the library trustees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And imagine you can vote online, and also on that same page, which might be the voters' information page,
Yeah.
there is a little, done by your husband maybe, a little 1-minute blurb by each of the candidates saying,
Yeah.
vote for me. What I'm concerned about
Yeah.
is the books and digital literacy
Yeah.
and something like that. That's why I want to serve on the library. So you could see that right at the time,
Yeah.
not, you know, something that you're trying
Yeah,
to
like you could
proselytize.
hover over their name and there'd be a
Yeah, and
big
they'd
little.
come up a little thing, and same
be
with the
very cool.
selectmen, and you know,
Yeah.
and because, truthfully, I didn't know the library trustees,
Yeah.
you know, and I wasn't around when they had the forum, and you know, but I something like that, and maybe it could be something that they work with Chelmsford Telemedia and your husband or something like that. They could do as an experiment at one of the next elections and stuff, and see what happens with the turnout.
Yeah.
You know?
Sounds great. Well, speaking of turnout, we have a presidential election going on this year.
Oh, we're so
and
sick of that already.
last year, yeah. But you know, this has been the most unusual presidential election in my lifetime, I believe, that I could recall. You know, there was different types of candidates, you might say, and both on the Republican and the Democratic side. And there's a candidate on the Democratic side, for example, that's getting huge crowds.
Huge.
Huge, like 5 to 20 or plus thousand at
Yeah.
a time. Enthusiastic, a lot of young people, a lot of older people too, but that's Bernie Sanders,
Yeah.
of course, senator from Vermont, former congressman, former mayor of Burlington, Vermont. So he's generating a lot of interest on the Democratic side. He's running, of course, with Hillary Clinton's also running. Those two are the two primary Democratic candidates at the moment. And on the Republican side, we have someone who's also getting thousands of people at his rallies, Donald Trump, who's a first-time candidate, I think, for any office. Of course, a longtime realtor, property owner, and manager, et cetera. So for many years. So his name was well known. And we also have, now it's basically, we have what, Ted
Cruz.
Ted Cruz, between him, and then we have John Kasich,
Yeah.
who isn't going to get the 1,237 delegates before the convention that's required, but John Kasich is staying in for some unknown reason yet.
Right.
I think because there's a possibility we might have a brokered convention, as you know, and I think he's thinking in the back of his mind, if they don't want to go for Donald Trump or Ted Cruz, maybe they'll pick me because I ran and I'm still in the race. I think that's what John
Sure.
Kasich is thinking.
Yeah.
So anyway, any thoughts on this presidential race? Because we only have a few minutes left, and I wanted to make sure we got it in because it's so interesting.
Well, are you a delegate? Will you go to the convention?
No.
Oh, okay, because
no?
it's, boy, that's going to, I think it's going to be a ratings
Yeah.
boom for the television stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think it's going to be crazy. And
think
now
there's more people paying
somebody
attention
asked
than
me
ever.
to sign a petition today to allow them to bring guns to the convention. So you've got Cruz, and you've got the Trump supporters, okay, and then you've got, 2,000 people with guns running around and stuff. I think the camera guys are going to be in tanks up there and stuff, because something's going to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a little
Yeah.
crazy
But,
there.
it's not allowed, though. That already been determined that is not going to be allowed. Guns
Right, I
will
think
not
some
be allowed.
people are still pressing it. The
They
Secret
still
Service
press it,
said
yeah.
you can't,
Yeah,
but
they
they're
can.
still pressing
Why
it.
do they want to bring guns?
Some people don't like to go anywhere without their
Without
guns.
guns, yes.
I mean, I was, it's a little different. Massachusetts is a little different. I was down in Tennessee when I was on my road trip. I'll never forget this. I'm hearing some kid, not a kid, he's an adult, 20-year-old, gets out of the car and he's yelling at his mother. This is at a little, gas station. This stuff, I'm sitting there getting gas. All of a sudden, I notice he's got a gun and he's screaming at his mother. His mother gets out of the car. She's got a gun on her side. And I'm just thinking, wow, this is kind of like really weird. I hope these two, mom and their son, don't get too upset at each other and stuff, because it's a little scary and stuff. I put up the credit card and drove away with half a tank and stuff. I didn't want to.
Where were you?
That was in Tennessee.
Oh, okay.
Where they have those kind of. I mean, it's.
Well, I grew up in the South.
Sure.
I'm not from the South. My
Right.
dad was
Yeah.
in the Air Force, so it's not too uncommon
Yeah.
for me. And
I mean, it's the open carry laws,
Yeah.
okay?
Right.
And again, I was out, went to, lived out west for years, which is a little bit different. It's just, it was kind of, I did not realize how many people are running around with guns. In Massachusetts, you just really don't see it.
You don't.
Stuff,
But any other thoughts about the candidates, though, running?
Oh, well, we've got some people that are, oh.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Oh, okay. I thought you're not, I mean, it's been entertaining. One thing that's interesting is my mother has 10 grandchildren, and, all great, smart college graduates and stuff like that. Every one of them is a fanatical Bernie Sanders fan, which is interesting because how do you know who this guy is, but they
Bernie
are,
Sanders?
Yeah, I mean, they're all for
I
him.
certainly don't. What do you mean? He's so well. I've watched him millions of times. I read about him. I mean, I know him very well. What do you mean? How do they know Bernie Sanders?
Well, just
He's been a senator, a congressman, a mayor.
absolutely. But as a presidential candidate, I mean, most of these kids weren't even involved with, conscious of, national politics, and all of a sudden they're fanatical about him. And I think it's healthy.
His
I mean, they talk
information is out there,
intelligently.
though, Matt.
What?
His information is out there, both in
Absolutely.
his speeches and on his website.
yeah,
You could-
but up until now, there hasn't been a reason to really pay attention to him.
Right, and this
I
is,
guess
you
that's
know,
what he's saying.
for
Why,
some
w-
people.
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
would a kid seek him out?
Yeah.
Up until now.
Yeah, and he's excited something within this kind of, I mean, you go to Brooklyn, where I have a lot of nieces living and stuff like that. It's totally Sanders territory.
Yeah.
And I think Trump has done that on the other side.
Sure,
He's gotten
yeah.
people very excited.
Yeah.
And so it's, I think
I
it's
think it's
it's
gonna be
good
a
for
very
the
large turnout for this presidential
Oh,
election.
yes.
yeah.
Well,
Out
I
of
guess
curi-
it depends who gets the nomination.
Yeah.
That's true. But
Well, I think it's going to be a large turnout. Yeah,
It's still
I
gonna be
can't
a-
imagine it not being, I mean, one thing that you could have is you could have it taken away from Trump, and I actually think he probably would run as some type of an independent
Maybe.
candidate.
Maybe.
And then you'd have, I mean, it'd be
Yeah.
kind of crazy. Who knows
Yeah.
the way that could, and I think he could actually win as an independent candidate, to tell you the
So,
truth.
Janet, what do you think? I know you've been following this very closely.
Now, just on the Republican side, I mean, early on, I really liked Kasich. But I'm a Trump supporter. I'll be honest, I don't like some of the rhetoric around him, but I do believe that I'd like to see more of somebody run this country like a business. I really think we need that kind of business sense. Less politics, more business.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he's definitely going to be the right person, but I do prefer him over Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
And I just don't think Kasich has a chance, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, let's see if we only have a minute left. Any thoughts, Pamela and
Well, we had
Charles?
talked earlier about the media, the news, and I think they're really driving a lot of the campaign. I think they started it off in the beginning, trying to take it away from Trump, and they've heated a lot of the discussions.
It's like the Boston Globe just had
The
that,
Boston
yeah.
Globes, right? Yeah.
Which is perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
And thank you all for being on this 400th
Do we
show
like
that
this?
we did. Well, we'll do it later, I guess.
Okay.
But our 21 years ago today, we started the show, and with Matt
Yeah.
Scott as a director. Thank you, Matt, for being on the show. It was great having you. Hopefully, every year on a post-election show, we could get the same panel, okay?
Sure
I
thing.
think
that'd
that'd
be
be great,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you, Janet, for
Thank
being back
you.
here
I
on a
appreciate-
post-election. Thank you so much for this beautiful cake.
You're welcome.
It's wonderful. And
Congratulations.
thanks. It was at 350th. You won my
Yes.
350th show.
I think the three of us
Yeah.
were on
Yeah,
the
Pamela
350th.
was on.
Yeah.
And I
Charlie
saw-
couldn't quite make
That's
that.
why
so
I'm eating weight.
He had something. Jim Lane was on and stuff. Because I have the picture of my living room.
Oh,
That's why I
okay.
know. I see it all the time. Thank you very much, Charles
I wouldn't miss
Wojtas,
it.
the new constable, and thank you very much, Pamela
Thank you
Armstrong.
for having me. It was
And
great.
thanks our great camera crew, Tara and Meredith and Larry, and our director, Pete Padula. Thank you very much. Look at our zero is falling.